One of the most controversial events this year is, of course, the way governments are reacting to the spread of COVID-19. Now, to be sure, the small percentage of people that get the virus who become seriously ill and or dies is tragic, beyond words, actually. But let me ask you a question. What is the source of your individual liberty? Is it derived from your neighbor's consent? Is it derived from the consent of your pastor? Or perhaps your boss? And finally, is liberty derived from the consent of the elected? No. Liberty requires consent from no one, folks. The only legitimate reason one's liberty should be encroached upon is if you have actively encroached upon someone else's liberty, and only they or their assigned representative, and in most cases the police power of the state, can intervene. Liberty is a state of constant risk. If you had no liberty, for example, if you were shackled to a wall wherein someone fed you 3 times a day, your risk would be significantly reduced to almost zero. However, when you have the freedom to move about, to interact, to do as you please, risk exponentially increases with the added liberty. And at the heart of the compact that each of you have with each other as you move about freely is that each of you must define your own level of engagement with the risks involved with the experience of liberty. Let me illustrate what liberty looks like in the face of imminent danger. Let's say, for example, your neighbor legally owns a gun and is legally on his front lawn holding that gun. Is he infringing upon your personal liberty in some way? And just to clarify, he obviously has the ability to kill you instantly if he chose to do so. So potentially, you are in harm's way. Under the given circumstance, do you have the right to arrest your neighbor? Or in more liberty-friendly terms, does the government, to whom you've assigned your right to protect you from others, have the right to tell your neighbor to stop what he's doing or take his liberty away from him by arresting him? No. Even though the potential for your immediate death is palatable, but there has been no direct action against your personhood, and the abatement of one's liberty is the only justification for the abatement of another's liberty. So in this same scenario, if he walked onto your property, it is only then that your liberty has been encroached upon. So it takes an active transgression knowingly performed and recognized by you that justifies the action to thwart that aggression. And the same thing goes for a virus, folks. Just because it's remotely possible that someone has a virus in your general vicinity does not mean you have the right to restrict their movement on the off chance that you might get the virus. If you wish to not get a virus, it is up to you, the individual, to mitigate your risk, because it is up to each of you to reduce your risk of living in a society to the level that you find acceptable. You are responsible for mitigating any risk that you have deemed appropriate for your individual circumstance, because everyone's circumstances are different. You cannot expect society to bend to the needs of a few and bear the burden of the inevitable fallout from such disastrous decisions, and we're experiencing that now. That is antithetical to liberty. Now, if the act of stepping out of your home immediately transferred the virus to your neighbor's nose, and they knew that it would be the outcome if you stepped out of your home, then yes, you could be forced to lock down by the government because it is a direct violation of your neighbor's liberty. In a ruling against the constitutionality of lockdowns in the state of Pennsylvania, the federal district judge, William S. Stickman IV, said it best. He wrote, "The liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms, in place when times are good but able to be cast aside in times of trouble. The solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as the foundation of the American experiment. The Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to open-ended emergency mitigation measures. Rather, the Constitution sets certain lines that may not be crossed, even in an emergency. I could not have said that better myself. Thank you, Judge Stickman, for sticking up for liberty. I should also add that this does not mean that society should be careless in their treatment of this virus. Please try to be sensitive to your fellow humans. But when it comes to lockdowns and government overreach and systematic school closures and the bankrupting of businesses and all the other malfeasance that is now part of the COVID-19 landscape wrought by the heavy hand of government, it all needs to end today, now, period, in the name of liberty. Thanks for stopping by. Please share, comment, and hit that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. If you want your own Liberty shirt, the link is in the description. Thanks for giving liberty a chance, folks.